Welcome to Real Coaching Radio, the podcast for coaches by coaches. We are here to teach you how to get the most out of your clients and yourself. This is where beauty meets the beast, brains meet brawn, and science meets, well, bro science. Welcome to Real Coaching Radio. Hello, so on today's episode, me and Mark, we talk about a new controversy with the Liver King. We go into a little bit of detail about it, but ultimately today is talking about values, talking about how you can find credible people within the industry. It's a fun one for me and Mark to do, but I think it just touches on a lot of great points that people who are looking for coaches or looking for guidance or like following people on social media. Like, how do you not get caught up in like following the wrong people or following the wrong crowd? Hopefully this episode gives you kind of a good idea of how to do that. I won't keep it any longer. Without any further ado, enjoy the episode. One day, honestly, one day, I know I keep saying it, but we're going to have like £3,000 cameras. We're going to have a guy who does it, so I don't have to do it.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Liver King. I think this one isn't actually going to be about Liver King as such, but it's a great introduction, a great way to start it. Have you finished the video?
I haven't finished the whole thing. I got towards the end of the email chain, but not quite the finish of it. So I didn't see like any of the blood work, and then from then on, basically. But yeah, I saw this massive stack of steroids and the emails. But it's just funny because
keep going.
The text, the way it's written, some of the things that are said in the email, you can just imagine. Like, if you ever listen to the Liver King talk, you can just imagine him saying that as it's been written. Do you know what I mean?
It was just like something like, I live in fucking paradise. I live in paradise. I don't go to the cinema. That was it. The question from the coach, like when he filled out the consultation form, was, what do you like to do socially?
Yeah.
He was like, my life is paradise. I live on a ranch with like 100 acres. I don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't go bowling. I don't go to the cinema. Yeah. And then there was something about, I just remember there being one bit about ice cream. Like, his wife makes a specific ice cream. And he's like, you should come over and fuck that shit up with me. And it's just like, you can just imagine. I can literally hear him saying it. That's yeah. It's yeah. I don't know.
So
comical.
There's a YouTube channel called More Plates, More Dates, and he's basically got a load of emails coming through. If you don't know who the Liver King is, basically he is a guy who eats raw liver, raw bone marrow, raw sheep spleen, raw testicles, and he's like jacked to the nines.
Well, I should hope so after what he's been taking.
Right, so he basically in multiple interviews said that he hasn't done steroids, and the big controversy around it all is it's obvious. If you, even a normal person can tell that guy's on steroids. Like, so I don't think the shock is not he's on steroids. I think the bigger controversy around him is his constant denial of the fact that he's taken steroids, in conjunction with the businesses that he's got and how well they're growing from the promo that he's and the marketing that he's been doing through Liver King, basically being this jack guy who talks about living this ancestral lifestyle. So it's like, you can do it too if you lead the same life as me and you buy my supplements. And it's like, that's kind of what I want to get into today.
Yeah.
Is around the dishonesty.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because like there's a few things. A lot of what he actually talks about and preaches, if you like, in terms of people should probably exercise more, people should probably eat better, people should probably get more and better sleep, people should probably get a little bit more sunlight. They're not bad things, and they're probably things we should all be doing, really.
Yeah.
But life doesn't necessarily allow for all those things to happen. It's the fact that he goes on about how healthy they are and we must do this, and how he blatantly denies he's multiple times never taken drugs, doesn't use drugs, and like you say, I think to anybody who does train, it's pretty obvious he does. So it's not a shock. We all knew he was using drugs anyway.
It's just, and that's the thing of like, and so I don't like from looking into, from watching that video and like seeing more plates, more dates talk about it, like kind of he was on a shit ton of gear, right?
It's a lot, mate. Yeah, so much.
And that's the thing of like, I think that's the bit that for me is like, it's kind of obvious in the sense of like, and I'm not even going, oh, he's disingenuous, like I can't believe it. I can 100% that this guy is obviously just out to make money.
Yeah.
I'm not sat here going, I can't believe he's done that when he said that he wasn't on anything. Like, it's more just along the lines of there's a lot of that happens within the fitness industry, and it's, I guess, how does someone who's coming into it see that and go like, do I trust? Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's the thing for me when I was watching it, was just like, the guy's got like millions of followers, like millions of followers.
And it also gives people so much false hope that, because there will be so many people who are really desperate to kind of change the way they're living their life and be fitter, be healthier, whatever. And they'll look to for people influential people on social media to take tips from them to help improve their life, and at times like have aspirations to look like somebody, be like somebody, whatever. And if kind of this jacked physique is sort of something that somebody's chasing, and they're looking at the Liver King and going, oh yeah, I really want to look like that, so I'm gonna sleep on this wooden bed. I'm gonna take these supplements, I'm gonna eat testicles, and yeah, this is gonna happen. But your missing ingredient is £15,000 worth of drugs every month. Like, it's, yeah.
Do you think people genuinely looked at him and was like, oh yeah, this guy's genuine? Do you reckon some people looked at him and was like, well, his advice is good, I'm going to start?
I think there's got to be. I genuinely think there's got to be. There's got to be.
But like, is this because I'm in the industry, or because I've spent money and bought things off of people who were charlatans that make it me go, I'm never doing that again. So as soon as I see something, because I spoke to a few people who have gone like, oh no, like what he says is really cool. Like, I've started eating liver now, and it's like, for me, I was just like, I can't buy into the gimmick of it. Yeah. Like,
I think that's it, because like what he's saying, I think the problem is, like I said, like a lot of the stuff that he preaches is actually pretty good advice. Like, eating raw meat could be good for you, like getting more sunlight, getting more sleep, all of these things are actually probably pretty good for you, and are pretty good for you. But I think it's the fact that he bangs on about them almost preaching being the only thing, and almost like a must. You must do this, you must do that. But I think what makes it all fake is, I think if listening to some of those emails and stuff, I guess you kind of got to give him credit for when he was talking about his diet. He probably does live that life most of the time. Yeah. But there was some stuff in there that you don't see on social media.
Dexter, was you taking like
dextrose tablets?
Dextrose tablets.
Yeah, it's like carbs and stuff, wasn't he? So, I think even, well, I don't really pay that much attention to him, but I think even like protein shakes and that sort of stuff, I don't know if he talks about that on social media. So I think a lot of the health advice that he's given is probably not bad advice. It's just the fact that it's I think I could never take him seriously because it's too extremist for me. I think that's the problem. The reason I could never like buy into him, it was too extremist for me, and it was blatantly obvious that he takes drugs.
Yeah, so that was the thing for me, and I think this is a good way for you to start to see if people are genuine with their intentions when you're looking for advice from them, is like the in crowd out crowd. So like the fact that he tries to say that like kind of if you basically want to be alpha or you want to be like an ancestral like hero or whatever, and you want to get your like ancestral woman, you need to do these things. And it's like you'll see that time and time again with people in the industry. I go opposite away from those type of people, which is like, this is the only way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that like that was for me was the bigger thing that I think puts me off of anyone. If someone was coming out and saying like, you could eat this because there's benefits, it's so much easier for me to receive that information, because I'm like, this person's not dogmatic, they're not throwing it down my throat, they're not telling me like, well, you're a piece of shit if you're not doing it.
Yeah.
But
I also think there's going to be people in the, I guess it depends where you're at in your fitness journey. Well, I guess, we're talking about fitness, but this could be in any aspect of life. If you look at the people on social media who are very credible people, it's very rare that they give definitive answers on you must do this, you must do that. A lot of the time they'll just give you the positives and the negatives of whatever the topic is that they're talking about, the good things, the considerations about it. They'll very rarely give you you must do an absolute, because there are very few absolutes, certainly in the fitness industry. And I think the problem is a lot of the general public and you'll know this from coaching clients, that a lot of the general public are looking for absolute definite answers. Like that's what they want to hear.
Yeah, how do you? That's the. I suppose that's. I never really thought about it that way, in the sense of like, it's just that one answer that they're looking for to solve all their problems, and it's like, how do you explain to clients that it's not like that? That there isn't this one thing you can do, or there's not just one way to do things. Like, I know it's the communication, I know it's the conversation that like you're kind of always having.
Yeah,
it's just that. I suppose it's just managing the expectations of them, innit?
Yeah, mate, I guess so. Managing the expectations, and I guess almost like taking clients, being part of that journey, like taking clients on this journey of whether it be re-educating them around certain aspects on nutrition, fitness, whatever it might be. Because a lot of clients, I think, we've recently picked up 2 new clients who, they're not old by any means, but they're mid-50s, and their nutrition and exercise knowledge is very limited, and a lot of it is unfortunately inaccurate, which is a shame, because they've been taught this information from somewhere. And so going through that journey of re-educating somebody who's in their mid-50s around something that they've quite strongly believe in, because it's what they've been told, and so why wouldn't they believe it? Because the person that told it them, they saw as some credible source, and unfortunately it is inaccurate. That's tough to do, isn't it? Like, especially at that age.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of like taking somebody on that journey to re-educate them over time, and I guess the only way they're gonna do that is putting some trust in potentially a new process and seeing some results, whether you can figure out a way to get some early wins with clients, and remind them. But then also, like, there's a lot of, with some of my clients, I'll try and relate it back to their lifestyle. So I've got a couple of clients who have got fairly high performing jobs, and I guess they kind of understand it, because if you're in a high performing position, regardless of the industry, there's not really any industry where you're just going to magically get some results. Like, you got to work pretty hard to get some results regardless of what the industry is. So it's kind of like, I guess, linking it back to what experiences they do have that are outside of fitness, and trying to make them understand, well, it's not really that much different here. Like,
yeah. it is that trust, isn't it? Because that's the thing that I find probably gets taken advantage of from people, is like, because there's so much misinformation and there's so many people like kind of spreading falsehoods, that building that trust is really difficult when you've had a client who comes on. And I suppose it's a really easy thing, because I guess when I had a new client who came on who had PT before, for me it was just straight away find out, well, what have you learned from them? What did they used to do? What did you not like? What did you like? What were they like as a person? And for me to try and understand that was so much easier on the approach, because it's like, okay, there's all of these things they're doing wrong. Gaining that trust is easy, because it's like, well, I can just, why is it done that? Yeah, like gaining that trust is easy, because all I can do is just go, well, I'm just going to teach you everything you haven't been taught. I'm just going to talk to you about all of the things you haven't learned from this other person, and like dispel all of those like misbeliefs. And kind of, I guess, building that trust can be easy if they've had a bad experience. It can be easy because you can just, I guess, really help them, and that builds that trust.
Yeah. But I also think there's been, because I've come across this quite a lot with clients, there's a lot of people who have had coaches in the past, and obviously you start to build a relationship with clients, and I've had clients in the past who've had previous coaches, and sort of as a person, they get on they really like the coach, they get on really well with the person, but they've actually never really got the results that they're looking for. So obviously, like, something isn't going right, and that's difficult, because, and I do the same thing, like try and figure out, okay, well, what do you think you know, what do you know, and what don't you know. Focus on educating them around the stuff that they don't know. But I found very quickly, like, the last thing you want to do is probably try and, bash the other coach that they've had, because they still like them as a person.
Yeah.
So, and there were probably some good things that they were doing, so I like to kind of try and play on those good things,
100%,
because they're positives.
Yeah.
And then educate them in areas that they're not educated in, and over time that's going to really help you build some trust, and then you can start approaching the conversations around why something else was inaccurate maybe, and by then hopefully they're probably seen some better results, they've got some trust in you, and you're more than likely able to link some of those myths or untruths to some of the stuff that you are currently doing, because it all sort of links together in one way or another, so you can bring it all and tie it all together. And I find that that's the easiest way to probably try and get somebody on board a little bit on your side.
No, because you're right in the sense of, like, if you continue to confirm what they have learned, which is good, like, you're already like agreeing with them, you're already on their team, and it's like, I think that can be part of this when it comes to people looking for like positive and good advice on social media, and like who they get it from, and I guess looking at the people within the industry and not knowing, it's just they kind of find someone they agree with on some things, they find someone who like has some information that they don't know, and it's like a bit like, well, now this person, like, I think when I buy into someone within the industry, it's normally because they've got information that I don't know, and it's purely to the point of like, well, as soon as I'm gonna just listen to everything they're saying, I've got nothing else to go off of, like, if I'm only listening to this one source, so I'm just gonna believe everything they're saying, because I don't know enough. And it's like, the more you start to branch out and learn from different people, you'll start to realize, like, well, this person has something good to say, this person has something good to say, and you can start to like collect all this information and go like, okay, well, this 5% he says is right, this 10% this person says is right, this 4% this person says is right, and you build your own knowledge of like, well, why are these contradicting? Why are these contradicting?
Yeah, and I also think there's aspects of, you hear certain people talking about very similar things, and I think that helps you build up trust with somebody else, especially like if you take social media, like if you're listening to somebody who you already trust, and then you hear somebody else who you've started to listen to maybe, But because also, like, yeah, these people might know stuff that you don't know, but for me, that doesn't necessarily confirm that they're credible, like, because it could still just be like a load of rubbish, really.
Yeah.
It's just they're trying to give you something that they potentially know you don't know, and so it can still be false. So you still need confirmation that they're a credible person. But I think but if they then eventually start talking about similar topics that this person that you already have trust in is talking about, then there's a link between the two.
Yeah.
And then I think that helps build up credibility between almost like a community of credible sources, if you like.
No, you're right, because like, I don't know if you do this, but I'll go on to, say, like, I come across someone's new Instagram and I see, like, followed by. So it's like, the people you follow also follow this person.
Yeah.
Like, that normally for me pretty much confirms whether I'm going to press the follow button or not.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like, if I trust this handful of people and they follow these people, like, and the same is true for the opposite way. So I just, like, unfollowed and, like, deleted a few podcasts that I used to listen to, or not that I hadn't listened to, but that I got recommended to listen to, purely because the person who recommended it to me is just now not a trusted source of information. So it's like, that's gone now. And it's just like, and that's, for me, is not even a conscious decision of like, I'm doing this because of this. It's just like, automatically in my brain, it's just gone, well, that wasn't ever credible, this isn't going to be credible. And you kind of just confirms it straight off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you're linking it all together, aren't you?
And so that, for me, is like, one of the things I want to talk about today was kind of values for coaching and values as people when it comes to, like, I guess, being credible in this industry and being credible as a person in general is a really fine line to tread, when a lot of the time when there's money involved. And I think that's the problem that seems to happen within fitness when it comes to two very different camps. And I say very different because and they do merge. There's obviously a merger because people within this fitness industry will make money off of it. You have a camp of people who are here to make money, and you have a camp of people who are here to make a difference. And distinguishing between those two sets of people will help you to understand who's credible and who's not. But coming into this industry and trying to figure out which side I'm going to sit on, for me, was really difficult, because I need to make money through this to be able to survive. But there's also these, like, dead set values which I have, which are me as a person. So when it came to, like, and a good example of this is, I have, like, a certain set of values that kind of I rule my life by, and I take them so seriously, to the point of, like, when I first did a, like, giveaway of, like, 3 PT sessions when I was first coming through, I had about 3 hours worth of conversation with different people about the wording of the text that I wrote down on the post, because I didn't want to ask for anything off of anyone.
Yeah.
And it was just, and that for me was just like, well, this is my values that are going to distinguish or guide me to make sure that when I come into this industry, or when I'm doing things, I'm not just denying who I am. Because anytime I've chased the money, anytime I've gone, I'm going to do this because this is going to make me loads of money, one, it's made me no money, and it taken me a shit ton of time, and two, I've just felt really shit about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, the people like the Liver King who are here for just the money, his values got to be all over the place.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the problem, isn't it? It's that they are very different camps, and it's kind of playing on the naivety of some of the general public, I guess, because there are so many. I think, especially in the fitness industry, there are so many mixed messages. There's so much misinformation out there. There's so many complex topics, and there's so many ways to, so take losing weight, for example. Yeah, we've got to be in a calorie deficit, but then there's so many methods, if you like. You could do fasted cardio, you can do HIIT training. There's so many different ways that people can promote losing weight, but the general public, some of them are so desperate to lose weight. You could sit down and have a 2-hour conversation with somebody and say, right, this is the principle that we need to adhere to. These are all of the methods and all of the approaches that we could take. Let's figure out which one is going to fit your life best, and let's try and work towards that, which would be really helpful for somebody. But then there's also people who go in, we'll definitely do this and it will fix your problem, and it's just going to cost you this much money.
Yeah.
And some people are so desperate that they just be like, well, this person's told me that it's definitely going to work, take my money.
How do you become credible in the industry, do you think? Not just in this industry, but how do you become a credible source of information, a credible person for people to go to? Because like when we have conversations in the gym, like if there's something that someone wants to know and they come to the table where we all work at and you're there, they'll ask you because you've got some form of credibility about you that people just see straight away. And through things that you've done in the past, through things that you've worked out in the past, so like ways that you conduct yourself as a person means that like, well, Mark's gonna know and I can trust what he says. And it's like for people coming up through the industry or for people looking for who they should speak to, what do you look for in a credible person? I know it's a bit of a difficult one.
Yeah, well, for me, I think like a lot of it is going to be sort of skin in the game. Like, and I think regardless of the industry, I think if you've been in an industry long enough to last the test of time, you're probably doing all right. And you probably know a good chunk, just even if it's just through pure experience of being around it, whatever the industry is, for such a long period of time. Because there are so many coaches that will come into the industry that will, like, how many people have you met or even know that now currently work in an office, regardless of doing what they're doing, they're like, oh yeah, I used to be a PT.
Oh mate, like unbelievable amount of people.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, well, there's a reason you're currently not a PT.
Yeah.
You know, and whether that's I can make more money doing this, I can make more, like, whatever, fine, you potentially can, but also the fitness industry, like, you can make, you know, there's no cap on the money that you can make. So it's not the fact that there's no money in the industry, because that's not true. Like, you can earn anything within it.
You can earn Liver King's multi-millions.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but whatever, like, there's some sort of reason that they didn't make it in the industry. Whether that's they lost passion for it, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I think firstly, sort of just, you know, have they stood the test of time? Like, have they lasted? And I know there's only one way people can gain that, and it's literally by doing it. And it's unfortunate because it's just like, oh well, I've only been in the industry 6 months. Like, there's no way. Are you saying I can't be seen as credible? That's not what I'm saying. It's just like, I think you're gonna potentially even give off like a slightly different aura if you've been in it a longer time.
That's probably it's quite relieving for some people, because understanding that I've just got to keep going.
Yeah.
I've just got to stick with the industry that I'm passionate about, and things will pay off if I'm willing to learn, if I'm willing to progress constantly. Like, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, it's probably quite relieving for some
yeah.
people.
And I also think, you know, obviously I can only comment on the fitness industry, but I also think there's got to be an element of people understanding that there's no possible way that they can ever know everything. And I guess the one thing that sticks in my mind of me, or I always come back to this when, you know, because there's some times where I feel like, oh, you know, I wish I knew more about this topic, I wish I knew more about this topic, and that's everybody. And the one thing that always comes back to my mind when I feel like that is, I remember doing my dissertation in my undergraduate degree, and going to, so there was this tutor that we had for one of exercise physiology, and his brain was just, it blew my mind. He was so clever, almost like on the spectrum kind of clever, just like, yeah, you are nuts, but you're so clever.
Rain Man in it.
Yeah. And I was like, I want this guy to be my tutor, just because, like, just wacky scientist. And I went to him and I said, you know, and I wanted to do my dissertation on creatine, and I did do my dissertation on creatine. And I said to him, like, I really want you to be my tutor for this. This is the topic that I'm thinking of, like, what do you think? And he turned around to me and said, well, I don't really know anything about creatine. I'm like, well, you do, don't you?
Yeah, you're the smartest person I know.
You teach exercise physiology, where we talk about energy systems, and creatine phosphate is an energy system here. So like, you know about creatine, but in my mind, I was like, there's levels to this game.
Yes.
Where it's just like, he obviously does know about creatine.
Yeah.
But in his mind, is like, go and speak to this guy because he knows about creatine.
And that's credibility.
Absolutely.
That is like the pinnacle of credibility. And I think if you're a young trainer, like young in the industry, like, and I still get this from time to time, it's being secure with the knowledge you have and secure with who you are as a person, the value you provide and the service you can give. That will allow you to be as credible as you can be. Because as soon as the reason most people are not credible, or for example would hoard that person, like if someone came to me and they wanted to compete in a CrossFit competition 2 years ago, I'd have gone, yeah mate, no problem, I can help you. No idea. But that was because I had such a scarcity mindset, because I was so aware of what I didn't know, and I was so afraid that this person's going to know I don't know anything. So it's like, the more experience you gain, the more knowledge you start to gain, the more you'll start to be sure with yourself as a person, that now if someone came to me and was like, I want to do a CrossFit competition, I'd be like, there's probably like 3 other coaches that I know which would give you a better service than I would. And it's just like, being sure in yourself to be able to pass someone on is like the pinnacle of credibility, and that does just come from knowledge, really.
Yeah. And I think, if you take some of the most credible people that whether it's through podcasts or social media, whatever, that you spend time listening to, at some point you've probably heard these people, because also in reality, we know a lot about the human body, and we know a lot about the science of training and nutrition and exercise, but there is also a lot of stuff that nobody still doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like, and science, and a lot of science is like changing all of the time. There's stuff that was coming out when I first qualified that it's just like, oh yeah, this is like, do this. And now, like, that stuff doesn't even get spoken about anymore.
Yeah.
And it's kind of because like there's updated science that's coming out, there's new research coming out all the time, and it's kind of like, it's almost just a never-ending journey.
Yes.
Because the human body is, yes, there's like physiological principles that haven't really changed, but we're finding out new things about the human body all of the time, and new research is coming out that whether it like debunks something that we thought was true even 5 to 6 years ago, we now know there's potentially an even better way of doing it. And it's that saying of kind of like, so what is it? Something like, do your best until you know better, and then do better, or something like something along those lines.
Once you know better, do better.
Yeah, that's it. And it's kind of like, and I think one of the ways for you to become more credible is to potentially, be satisfied with what you do know, but then always strive to like try and be better. And I think when you get to the point of just like, I know everything, that's probably when your credibility will start to end.
Yeah, but that's the thing,
because you will never know everything,
and that normally comes with the pay packet of the confirmation bias of, well, there's something I'm gonna keep pushing because it's what I sell. And that's like, that's part of it as well, which is why like science is such a funny thing, because there's a lot of things. It's so funny because like a new study will come out which someone will go, yes, like this is exactly the study I've been waiting for to prove me right. And it's like, okay, great, so now there's a study that's come out which now said your method of training is the best method out there. And it's like, in 6 years time or 6 months time or however long, a new study is going to come out which is going to say that it's not right. Like, from doing list cardio because it's not like, it doesn't stress your body so much and it's like low intensity and that's your fat burning zone, to no, do high intensity cardio if you want to burn fat. So like all of these different fasted, not fasted, like, and then it's like, okay, so science comes in and does these things and tells us a good direction of like the way that I think Pat Davison said in a podcast before, which was really cool, was like, think of it like a fishing. You're out fishing and you're following a radar, and it points you to a direction of this is where the fish are, and you throw a line overboard and you don't catch anything. Science is the radar pushing you there. The kind of coach's eye, the self-development, the ability to understand that, well, if no fish are biting, I best go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's that with science. It's like this method of training, or this way that they've said is the best way, I'm going to try it, and I understand that actually the individual variance that comes into play, be it behaviorally, be it like psychologically, be it just like physically, this person reacts differently to certain things, isn't the right way. Well, just because this study has said something, I'm still going to be able to go and change my opinion. And I think that's like that thing of science guiding you and like learning more. It's always just about, I guess, still having that ability to go, all right, but there's probably more I don't know. And
Yeah.
like, that's okay.
And I think having that open-mindedness to be prepared to change your opinion is another thing that's going to make somebody more credible. I think if you're just like peddling this one thing all of the time, regardless of, and some new research comes out that potentially like should, and for some people like maybe even does change their opinion, but they're not going to change their sales approach to whatever product it is because they're making a load of money from it. Like, I think again, like that's where you start to lose your credibility.
This is so cool because like this is where celebrities become like an enigma of themselves, when they start, basically they do something which gets them popular, and then it's like they've got to continue to do that thing, either be more extreme with that, or like just keep drumming home that same persona or the same kind of way that they are, to keep getting people to like have eyes on them. And that's like just such a trap of like, I'm gonna do this same thing over and over again because that's what the people want. And it's like, as soon as your followers or the crowd or the people are dictating how you do your performance or how you are as a person and who you are kind of like at your core, you're done, because like they know they can just pull that string and you're a slave.
And I think it's a bit like, this is not on the same level as Liver King at all, but there is, I don't even know if he still does it, but like years ago, like Cristiano Ronaldo started promoting what's it called, Herbalife. Remember Herbalife?
Yes.
It's like he started promoting that as kind of like, oh, this is what I take, like, and it's just like, well, you've got a personal chef at home. You play for Manchester United, where all of your, there is a chef there, a sports scientist chef.
Yeah, you're not doing
like
Herbalife.
I don't think Herbalife is the thing that's making you potentially the best footballer in the world.
And so that's the thing. So this, do you know what's really funny about that is like, it's kind of like the sponsorship deals and stuff like that people get. That Ollie Omega, because of who he is, and he is straight up with who he is in the sense of like, he's just someone taking the piss out of everyone on Instagram. He gets like sponsored from like Sky, and he'll do like a funny video for Sky, and no one's like, that's uncredible, because he's not saying anything, he's not lying in that sense. He's going, I'm doing this to make money, this is my play to make money. And it's like, all right, cool. He's not there going like, all right, if you eat raw liver and bull's testicles, you're going to be yickety yacked. Well, he's out back jabbing, and it's like, it's not that contradictory.
No, he's just acting like a bit of a clown, isn't he? Like, he's not, I think it's very different between selling false hope to somebody and then just like being funny.
And I think that's why, like, for me, values are really important as like people, because it's just like, and you dictate your values through experiences you have, and then you kind of basically create this list of like, well, these things are important to me because I've either got positive experiences every single time. It's so much better if you actually see it. Positive experiences. Yeah, that's why values are so important to me, because like and your values are created basically from you going, I had these positive experiences doing these things, I've like experienced X, Y, and Z in my life, which has told me that like these things are really valuable. Through things that I've learned, like this is where I hold value. And it's like, if you can understand like what's most valuable to you, that can almost guide you in a way. And I think that's where like, it's hard to say that there's right values and wrong values, but for me, all like chasing the money thing, it just goes against me.
Yeah.
Like what? Like I don't want to sit here and say chasing the money is a bad thing, because I think you can make a lot of money and still be a good person. And like I've had this argument with people, with like friends and family, where I've just gone like, I could still create a business and still be a good person.
Yeah.
And I think that's I guess what I mean by like values. Not contradicting and not being a charlatan is like is actually quite easy to do. You don't have to contradict your values. It's just like there is this easy way, or this road I could take which leads me to money, which I don't have to necessarily stick to these values. Like I don't know, that for me is just like a big thing that puts me off of people, is like puts me off of like people that, especially like the people that contradict themselves or just blatantly lie, I guess would be the more easier way to say it.
Yeah, I guess like, but I guess like there are, you know, unfortunately there are some people out there that don't really have a moral compass, and it's kind of, I don't really know what you can do about that.
Balls, testicles, and Trent.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah. But I do think that like, you know, karma's a bitch. Like I do think that like at some point you are gonna get found out.
Yeah, 100%. You can. I just think that it's like, it shows themselves. You can only hide so long. You can only like live a certain way for so long. And I think that's the really bigger thing for me, is like not just like getting found out from other people. It's like the moment you find yourself out. Because I've had it with times where I've contradicted my values and I've gone against who I am, and like I know that, but like I still convince myself it's the right thing. It's the right thing. It's the right thing. And then like you get this moment of realization where you go, oh my God, like I've done X, Y, and Z that is really against who I am as a person. I've got to now live with that. Like that's hard, man. Like that's, and like I know some people will say that they won't experience that, or they won't ever go through that. But like, I think something's not screwed in right for you to not realize you're actually being a dick.
You got to be pretty cold, ain't you?
You got like, there's got to be some part of you which is just like, I am right in everything I'm saying and everything I'm doing. I am right. And I guess the people that tell you their way is the best way, they are those people. They are those people who do not have that part of them which goes, you probably shouldn't do that.
But then maybe I wonder if like that, you know, there's probably like a little bit of, if you know, there's a time where you start to believe your own bullshit.
That's where does that come from?
Well, but I think if you
lie to yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, like
you've got no choice.
I mean, I'm colorblind, but like, you know, if I was to wake up and go like, right, my trousers are blue, and I tell myself my trousers are blue enough times, I might start to believe that they're blue. Like, I don't know.
Is it purely because people like that don't want to listen to anything? They actually don't want to like listen to new knowledge, gain new knowledge. They just kind of like bury their head in the sand, run away from every hard thing that ever happens to them, every difficult conversation, every difficult and example that they are wrong. They don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And for me that's driven from deep insecurities, because not being able to look at yourself and to reevaluate who you are as a person and if you're actually doing the right thing or not, that to me is just like, it's such a deep insecurity that it's so hard for you to look at that person. It's so hard for you to look at yourself in that way, because I think you'll just crumble.
Yeah.
I think the people who don't do it will just crumble.
Yeah, and there probably are people who are just kind of, and maybe like, I mean, I don't know, maybe some people get to a point where they're like, well, I pedaled this so hard now, like, I maybe can't change my mind. I just got to keep going. Like,
mate, that happens with my dad, right? We'll be having conversations. My dad will be sat across from me, 2 bottles of red wine in, telling me protein shakes are bad, and he will die on that hill. He is like, I am
too far gone, mate.
And
so well,
I'm like, are they though?
Yeah.
And like, I have a bit of knowledge around protein. My dad has no knowledge about protein. So like, the conversation is just like, the blind ignorance is, I think. So like, the way I've explained it to people before, of people who are like blind ignorant or who always have to be right or want to be right, it's so hard for them to be wrong because they're constantly trying to prove something to someone because they feel like they are not good enough, so they have to prove it.
Yeah, so again, it probably like just comes back to just insecurities, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, Liver King.
But actually, do you know what is like, kind of like, I don't know if you ever listened to the Liver King's podcast with Stephen Bartlett.
I haven't.
Right. So interestingly, going off what we've just said, he got proper bullied as a child. I mean, if that's true.
Right.
I mean, he also says he doesn't take steroids.
I mean, but this is the. Even if he did get proper, and that's probably, say that part, say that's the one thing he's ever said, which is true, that he did get bullied when he was a kid. Like, straight up, that is why he has to prove something to himself. That's why, like, I've done a post recently, I don't know if I even shared it, basically, people that, for motivation, you need to run towards something, you need to run away from something. You basically need something to aim at that you want to achieve, and something that you don't want to happen, or you don't want to be, or you don't want to achieve, in the opposite direction. Basically getting your anxieties to propel you forward. So for me, for example, or like, if I'm someone who wants to try and lose weight, I'm running towards the person with the new body who's going to be confident, who's going to be able to buy nice clothes, who's not going to feel like embarrassed, and I'm running away from like all of the negativity, like the self-hate of myself currently from being overweight. I'm running away from that negative person. The people who go through life and are so highly driven about some things, it's like there's a reason. And if the reason is not a positive reason, in the sense of they're running towards something they are truly passionate about, then there's something negative behind them pushing them forward. And I think that's the thing of like, that's part of the reason why I say values, and part of the reason why, like, for me, it's like, you need to know what you want in life, because it's like, you need to run towards that, because otherwise your anxiety is going to push you to do things that you don't necessarily want, but because you haven't defined what you want, the fear of being of the things you don't want to be, and the fear of, and the insecurities of, I was bullied and I was this and I was that, is going to push the Liver King to turn around to people and go, I want to be liked, I want to be successful, so that makes me feel good, so people look up to me and go, oh my god, that kid I used to bully is so successful right now. And that could genuinely be the internal conversation he's having.
Yep.
If you don't understand your values and understand right from wrong and understand what you actually want from life, that anxiety is going to push you to bump a shit ton of GH and like be like, nah mate, it was the balls testicles.
Yeah.
Like,
nah, 12,000 pounds worth of growth.
Anything else on our man Brian Johnson? Also a brilliant name.
Yeah.
Liver King's great, Brian Johnson's better.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an odd character.
The rock solid abs.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
I'm back fat.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel a little bit sorry for his children, I think.
It's when he makes them eat that shit, puts them on camera, makes them eat it.
Yeah. Also, like, I've seen a few videos with his wife in, and she just looks like she doesn't want to do any of this stuff.
Mate, I know how hard it is when I ask Jess to get me a glass of water. Yeah. Like, Jess, can you eat this raw?
But like, I think like his whole down. I don't know. For me, it started this downward spiral when it was like, I live the way our ancestors live, like, but I'm just about to jump on my private jet. All right.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like, I don't know. I just like go to the Amazon and live in a tribe, mate. Like, if that's what you want to do, great. But it's just I don't know.
It's just so extreme, isn't it? Like, so extreme.
I got nothing to say. I'm done.
Be interesting to see what happens over the next like few years with him.
Well, I'm gonna get this posted soon. So I'm gonna do this. Get this posted like after I get this posted Monday.
I mean, like well, reality's got enough money to just like disappear.
I reckon there's people that still support him.
Oh, 100%
So
there were
it's
people who
like,
stood there because he's maybe like been going for too long now and convinced, almost like brainwashed too many people that it's just like
How many people?
It's a cult, isn't it? Almost, you know.
How many people in this cult right now?
Yeah,
Like,
it's exactly,
like,
isn't it?
Tucking in to their raw
Yeah.
liver.
Yeah.
And this video comes out. How many people would be livid?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm definitely certainly not going to get into it at all. But like terrorism's just like,
Yeah.
you create a cult of
do
people and like
any-
it's just like, you know.
there is certain cults. There's definitely fitness cults. Oh my god, there's fitness cults, and like people do. It's so right though. It's just like people create this team of people, of like this in crowd of like this is what God's told us to do. This is like what our ancestors want us to do. Like, and it kind of just, you're harping on this track
Yeah.
of like.
Yeah.
Anything else on the Liver King?
Nah, I think we should.
I don't think we'll ever do
Politics is
that.
way outside of my remit.
I
so-
don't actually know anything about politics. Is Tony Blair still Prime Minister?
Unless he's got big biceps, mate. I don't know.
Right. Ronnie Coleman for president.
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman for president. Who we have? We can have JP or Dorian Yates Prime Minister. We'll take over the world. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. We will see you soon. Cheers. Told you that was a good one. If you have a raw liver, please can you let me know what it tastes like, and if you were someone who had your like balls, testicles on order and then listened to this podcast or realised that the Liver King isn't as truthful as he is. I really do want to harp on about the values and about like being able to find someone credible within the industry. Like, it's really difficult, but I would say just try to find different sources of information. Look for different people who are talking within the industry, and start to find someone you trust, and then follow along the kind of same people they talk about or they trust and they speak about. Normally you'll be on a good path to kind of have incredible information and like follow incredible people in the industry. If you kind of want to get in contact with me and Mark, I would appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes. You can find me at Hat the Body, Hat the Mind. You can find Mark at Mark Origin Series. We are also still running PT courses through the whole of next year. So if you do want to kind of do any of those or want any more information, again, you can probably just get in contact with me and Mark through social media, through Instagram, things like that. You can go to Origin Series website, or you can go to my website, Hat the Body, Hat the Mind again, for any more information. But yeah, if you don't have iTunes, you can't give us a 5-star review, please screenshot this, chuck it up on your story, tag me and Mark within it. Let us know your thoughts about the Liver King. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We are Real Coaching Radio.